Hey everybody, I'm Gail Z Martin, and this is a new episode for the Thrifty Author Meetup. We usually meet in person, but with all the craziness in the world, we're meeting virtually, and you know what? That's kind of nice because it means more people can meet with us. So, well, we may just continue doing some virtual even when we can do the in-person meetup again. And today I want to talk about the pros and cons of mentioning the pandemic in your writing. I've seen a lot of discussion about this on many different author discussion boards, and folks have some powerful and emotional reasons, pro and con. So I thought that might be a good thing to kind of lob around today and look at some of those pluses and minuses. I think to some extent, it depends on what kind of fiction you're writing. If you are in the middle of writing a post-apocalyptic or an apocalyptic piece of fiction that uses a pandemic as the agent of the apocalypse, whether you are talking about the current virus or not, then I think you have some custom-made research right at hand to see how do people react, how do modern people react. How do people in a highly industrialized Western culture react? How does this work now as opposed to outbreaks that we've seen historically here in the United States and in Europe as opposed to other parts of the world? And how have things changed from how people responded in 1918, for example, to how people are responding now, because there are some real similarities as well as differences. So you've got a petri dish, pun intended, of research that you can draw on if you're writing about a general pandemic apocalypse. If you're writing contemporary romance, you might want to stop and think about it, because some forms of fiction are much more escapist than others in terms of people who really want to turn off the real world and get away from their problems. And there's an argument that says some people might not want to see the current unpleasantness reflected in their fluffy fiction. And there's another argument that says, well, you know, for a portion of readers, this is how we deal with distressing situations, whether that is chronic illness or financial difficulty or physical danger. So for some people, that might be a story of overcoming and a story that empowers them because the main character confronts the big bad and hopefully overcomes it. So that is also, I think, somewhat genre specific as well as very story specific. We also don't at this point know the lasting changes that are going to come from this. Will masks just become the new fashion accessory from here on out? They have certainly been common for a long time in Asian cultures. Is that just going to be the new thing? You know, there are lasting changes over the last 20 years from 9/11 that if you were to write a modern setting now where someone just waltzed all the way up to the airport gate to greet someone coming off a plane, you'd be going, wait, what? You can't do that. It just became part of our new normal. And we don't know yet what's going to be the lasting impact of this current situation. Do people never go back to shaking hands? Does the office configuration permanently change? We don't know yet. So that is another reason why you may want to hold off on talking about it, because it will certainly date your story since we don't know how it all resolves. As I said, sometimes it can be too much for some readers. It can also be cathartic for other readers. So you're going to have to know your readership as well as the type of book you're working on. It's a moving target also, which can cause problems for your book, because since this is a new situation, we're constantly uncovering new details, and researchers share with us what they fully believe to be true at the moment based on their current research and data and studies and information. But 2 weeks or 2 months later, they may uncover something new that completely changes the picture. And if you've written based on what was thought to be true a month ago, 2 months ago, it takes a while for a story to be put together, you may find that by the time your book comes out, something that you based your story on, or even just mentioned, is now disproven or shown to be not what we once thought it to be. So just take heed on that, that it can not only date your story, but we will forget in time just how many misfires we had on the information as people tried to figure these things out. And so someone reading the story 5 years from now may not remember how much the details changed from day to day as we uncovered new things, and just think maybe you didn't get it right unless they were fully involved. At some point, people hopefully will be reading your book who weren't as involved firsthand in the day-to-day, and they may lose that nuance. I think it also depends on what you want to achieve with the story. Sometimes a highly temporal story is exactly what you want to put out in the world because it is a commentary or a view of this moment in time, and it's meant to be dated. It's meant to be, you're sticking your flag in the sand at this moment to describe this moment in a way that maybe we can't describe after the moment has passed. That's a very particular kind of story. So if that's what you want to write, okay, just know that that's what you're doing going into it. There's also the issue of sensitivity, because while, and it's really true with any kind of apocalyptic scenario, whether it's a volcano or a tsunami or an earthquake, real people get hurt by that event. That's somebody's parent, brother, sister, wife, husband, child who didn't make it out. And so bring that sensitivity when you are talking about really any kind of cataclysmic event that actually happened, because those aren't just characters or statistics, those are real people. And that leads us to the other danger, and it all depends on how you use it in the story and how you come across in positioning and promoting the story. But you really don't want to look opportunistic, like you're cashing in on the headlines. And that can be a danger if you are heavily focused on writing to market, to think, oh, this is what everybody is talking about because it's all over the news. This would make a great story because it's very timely. Yes and no, for all the reasons we've talked about. But you also, like I said, don't want to look like you're cashing in on other people's pain and suffering and danger. So it has to be handled with some nuance and empathy and sensitivity. And I think that if you keep those issues in mind as you're weighing how much of today's real life events to work into your story of any kind of genre, I think you'll be in a much safer place than for having stopped, looked and listened, and thought about it, and then proceeding with caution. There are plenty of opportunities that you can use to fold this into your story. Just make sure you really thought about it up front. Folks, that's our quick Thrifty Author meetup for today. And I'm Gail Z. Martin. You can find our Thrifty Authors on meetup.com. If you look at Thrifty Author Success Network, we meet in Charlotte, North Carolina. We also are now meeting virtually via the app anywhere and everywhere. So join us again. I'll have more video for you. And thank you so much for joining us today. Good luck with all your projects and stay safe.